Hey guys, it's Yoohan here with some project cars, and today we've got the ESL Go4 Cup final videos for you. This is from the February finals. Unfortunately, it's taken a little bit of a while for me to get around to actually doing the commentating and editing for these. I've been very busy recently, but I finally found some time to sit down and do these, so apologies for taking so long, but these two races were too good not to upload them onto the channel. Some absolutely fantastic battling, and I really wanted to show you these two final races. So for this February final, the first race is going to be at Laguna Seca, and then the second race is going to be at Brno. The cars, or should I say the car classes, that everyone is going to be running in today is the GT4 class. However, everyone has picked exactly the same car for this race. They've all picked the Ginetta G55 GT4, so they're all going to be racing in that. But without much more to say, let's take a look at the qualifying results and the entrance for this race. So on pole position for race 1, we have SDL Khaki with a 126.483. In second place, we have BAM Tuscan with a 126.566 800ths of a second off Khaki. SDL Mangator comes up in third with a 126.992, half a second down. The Prophecy was in fourth with a 128.103. SDL Yoohan came up in fifth with a 128.154, and then in sixth and final position was Diego with a 129.343. Okay, so here we go with this first race for the PC February ESL final, and we're just waiting for the start sequence to begin as the other streamer goes and loses connection there. Once this start sequence begins, we'll hop into the spectator cam and we'll bring you the commentary for the action of this first round. So the guys are getting off a relatively good start. Yoohan going 3 wide with a number of guys here. I believe that is the Prophecy on the right hand side. It looks like they've both made contact, and Yoohan has spun off to the right hand side of the circuit there. Contact between Yoohan and Prophecy, and I believe Prophecy has gone and lost the position now to Diego as well, who has slipped himself up into 4th position, running through the first sequence of corners. Coming out towards turn 3 now, I believe that Khaki is leading Tuscan, and then we do have Mangator in 3rd position in his rather colourful livery, picking him up here as he runs through the second right-hander there. Coming up towards turn 5, this very fast left-hander, Khaki still leading from Tuscan. There's like a little bit more contact there between Diego and also the Prophecy. Both of them managing to keep the car on the circuit though, and Yoohan is trying to recover his race in final position, as it looks like Diego there loses the car midway through that very fast left-handed kink and has run out wide onto the gravel and has dropped himself down into 6th position, promoting Yoohan up into 5th, and also the Prophecy up into 4th. A nice bit of flame there coming out the back of the Ginetta GT4 as they run down through the corkscrew. But we're coming towards the end of the first lap. I must admit it's been fairly messy by a number of guys so far. A little bit of contact and a few mistakes here and there. Currently following the Prophecy as he comes into the final corner now. Actually going to jump up to Tuscan, who's in 2nd place, hunting down Khaki as we take a look at the lap times for the first lap. So 132.186, obviously standing start for these guys. So we're going to knock off a couple of seconds in the next lap. Looks like Tuscan was running a little bit shy of the apex there on turn 1. Turn 2 is pretty much follows straight on, but Mangator is holding onto the back of Tuscan at the moment as Tuscan is trying to follow Khaki round through. There's probably about 4, maybe 5 car lengths between the two at the moment, and a reasonably similar gap between 2nd and 3rd place as we come on this second lap. The guys using the outside curb there to try and open up this left-hander a little bit more, using the full width of the track, staying just shy of the red curb on the inside there. If you clip that with a tyre, it can unsettle the car. The guy's running a little bit off the inside of the corner there, cutting it a tiny bit, also running a little bit wide, which would cost a tiny little bit of momentum up the hill, but I think all 3 drivers did that, so no real advantages gained here or there, although it does look like Tuscan has had a slightly better run coming up the hill and down through the corkscrew, and is actually closing up onto the back of Khaki a little bit, pulling away from Mangator behind them. Both Khaki and Tuscan using an awful lot of the slip road on the outside of the circuit there to try and open up the penultimate corner. Coming into the final corner now, all 3 guys running both off on the inside there and also on the exit as well, using the AstroTurf and trying to maximise the width of the track and try and you know, carry as much speed as you can through. These GT4 cars aren't all that amazingly powerful, so it's more about keeping the speed and the momentum up through the corners, trying to make sure it's nice and smooth. These cars do have quite a lot of mechanical grip, and their aero is reasonably decent for what they are. As you can see, Tuscan seems to be holding on to the back of Khaki quite nicely here in this third lap. They're dropping Mangator behind them, and both of these guys running very, very quick lap times. As you see at the moment, Tuscan doing a 1:26.6 on his previous lap. His lap before that was a 1:32 point something, I believe, and this time coming through the left-handed kink, it looked like it was a little bit tidier from both drivers there, although Tuscan did run a little bit wide again on the exit, but that hasn't cost him the momentum coming up the hill, and he's still trying to pressure Khaki in this early stages in the race. You've got 13 laps at the moment to go, or should I say just over 12 laps, as we're coming towards the last two corners of this third lap now. But Tuscan holding second, Mangator is still in third, with Khaki still in first, and that looks like Yoohan is there in fourth position. I couldn't quite see who it was behind. Both the Prophecy and also Diego are running relatively similar liveries, so there you can see Prophecy is ahead of Diego, 5th and 6th position respectively, and these guys still doing 1:26s, mid 1:26s at the moment on their previous lap, and also both these laps are the fastest laps that they had for these two guys. Tuscan is a little bit quicker than Khaki at the moment, and then Mangator is just a couple of attempts slower than the two guys in front of him for now. Be interesting to see if he can hold on to the back of these two as they push each other really, really hard in this race. Seems like the guys have kind of tidied themselves up a little bit and settled themselves down and not quite taking as much off the inside of the corners. Just as I say that, Khaki goes and takes a fair amount off on the inside, and Tuscan doesn't quite hook up the apex quite as nicely and actually runs out fairly wide into the sand that's on the exit of the circuit. However, that hasn't really cost him all that much momentum. He's still there relatively close to the back of Khaki. He's probably dropped the car length, and there you can see he's using the slip road to try and open up the penultimate corner, and again he's dipping the wheels out wide onto the sand on the exit of the corner there, and taking a little bit off on the inside. So cutting and extending the track a little bit as we jump now to Khaki, just to see what kind of lines he's been taking in this race, trying to open up the first turn in the braking zone, using a little bit of runoff on the right hand side of the track there. Fairly neat and tidy though through the first couple of corners. Coming into turn 3 now, taking a nice smooth flowing line, using both the curb on the inside and also the exit, but not really much more. Seems that Khaki is taking slightly cleaner lines than Tuscan is, not using as much of the gravel on the outside. As we pick up Yoohan now as he comes through turn 4. There's Prophecy, not too far back. Actually no, sorry, Prophecy's now coming into the 4th turn. I can't really see Diego in the picture either. So where is he? He's just coming through turn 3 now. And now coming under the Cooper Tyres bridge into turn 4. So jump back to Prophecy, and you can see there the gap between the two drivers is fairly substantial, and again another decent sized gap between the Prophecy and Yoohan, who's in 4th position, and then a fairly sizable gap up to Mangator, and the gap between 3rd, 2nd and 1st isn't too big as we pick up Tuscan now, who's getting fairly close to the back of Khaki. This is the closest that we've seen him since the first lap or two in this race. So these guys are trying to push each other relatively hard. They are pulling away from Mangator as well, as it looks like Tuscan goes a little bit deep there in the first part. That should open up the second part for him though, but it will cost him a tiny little bit of ground, though it doesn't really seem to have cost him much. He may have had a slightly better exit coming out of turn 2 than Khaki did, able to get on the power a little bit earlier and a little bit harder, which would have allowed him to negate any ground that he would have lost running just that tad bit deep in turn 1. Looked like Tuscan was able to hook up the corner a little bit better there than Khaki was, despite running in the dirty air of Khaki's Ginetta. Both of the guys relatively cleanly through again. Tuscan taking a little bit off the inside of that left-handed kink, but both drivers avoiding hitting that red sausage curb with the tyres, instead actually just running the car over the top of it and between the tyres on both sides of the car. We see them just coming through the second to last corner and coming into the final corner now. I just wish that the camera would have panned round with the guys going through the final corner so we can follow them all the way through and onto the start-finish straight to start lap 6. Coming down towards turn 1. I don't think Tuscan's quite near enough to Khaki at the moment to kind of really threaten the position and try and dive down the inside. Khaki will probably be looking in his rear view mirrors but still trying to keep a relatively calm and level head as Tuscan takes a fair amount off the inside there, turning in a little bit earlier than he perhaps should have, and certainly earlier than Khaki did. However, he's still hovering around a car length to 2 car lengths behind Khaki at the moment. Khaki doesn't really seem all that much phased at the moment in terms of Tuscan trying to present himself in his mirrors and wanting to find a way past. Again, you see the guys taking very, very similar lines through all these turns and challenging each other rather hard. And now it looks like Tuscan is indeed closing up onto the back of Khaki at the moment. He's looking very, very close. So he takes a fair amount again off the inside there. And it's actually very, very close. Less than a car length now between these first 2 drivers as we come in to start lap 7. Has Tuscan got the run coming out of this final corner? Got the power to use the slipstream of the Ginetta of Khaki in front to try and make a move down the inside into turn 1. I think they're a little bit too far away from each other at the moment. But Tuscan closing up onto the back of Khaki through the mid corner and the apex there of turns 1 and 2. Now coming into turn 3. At the moment, still holding station, still both first and second are Khaki and Tuscan respectively. All the while still dropping Mangator behind him, who's slipping further and further back. Very, very briefly there, popping into the background of the previous camera shot. So these guys pushing very, very hard. Again, avoiding that large curb on the inside. And again, Tuscan seems to be running a little bit wider than Khaki does in that left-handed kink. Coming into the corkscrew now. Launching the cars over the top, then down the dip into the right-hander. Now into this very fast, long left-hander, which really does open up as a little bit deceptive upon initial entry and mid-corner. And then coming into the braking zone here of the final turn. So I imagine Tuscan's going to probably try and line himself up to pick up the slipstream coming down the start-finish straight to see if he can potentially make a move into the braking zone and into turn 1. Doesn't quite look like the guys are still... It doesn't look like Tuscan's still close enough to the back of Khaki, as it looked like Khaki was going a little bit defensive there. Just covering that inside a little bit just to make sure that Tuscan wasn't going to go for the move. So they're still following each other through for now as Tuscan runs out wide onto the gravel. However, that doesn't really cost him too much. Khaki holding his nerve for the moment. Is able to hold on to this first position using all of the curb there on the outside on the entry to that left-hander. And using a nice smooth flowing line, Tuscan presenting himself there in the rearview mirror of Khaki. Both of these drivers looking very, very close together as Tuscan runs again out wide on that left-hander. However, again, he still hasn't dropped off Khaki as much as I'd expect him to, running up that far out wide into the gravel there. And Tuscan is able to hold on to the back of Khaki at the moment, even in this slipstream and in the dirty air of the car in front. These cars do have quite a lot of mechanical grip. They are very, very light, so you can chuck them around and you can follow the car in front very, very closely, which does provide some good racing. And I think this time round, Tuscan is looking a little bit closer to Khaki than he has on the last couple of laps. Is he going to go for the move into turn 1? No, Khaki is covering that. And Khaki actually goes a little bit deep there in through the first turn. This has presented Tuscan to get right up onto the rear bumper of Khaki. He's not quite going to have a look coming through turn 3. He's just going to follow him through for the moment. He's going to follow him through for turn 4 as well. Will he be able to get a decent run coming out the exit of him? Present an opportunity and a move down the inside for turn 5. He's going for that move now, presenting himself into the side mirror, the wing mirror of Khaki. However, Khaki has shut the door on him and has managed to hold on to first position for the moment. So once again, Tuscan is going to have to follow him through this very fast left-handed king. Once again, running out wide as well. It's going to drop him a car length or two that time, and that has actually cost him a little bit of momentum, and he's dropped further back from Khaki. But that's the closest that we've seen Tuscan to getting up into first position. He's had a couple of small looks there, but Khaki's kind of made it very, very difficult for Tuscan to actually get up alongside and actually have a real good opportunity to slip himself up into first position. So Khaki's showing some very good defensive driving at the moment, and Tuscan, whilst being there, hasn't quite been able to capitalise on this very, very small minor mistake that Khaki made coming into this exact turn on the previous lap. So just looking at the lap times now as we come into lap 11, both Khaki is running 26, is not too far off his fastest lap time so far. Tuscan did a 27 on the previous lap, but that's kind of mainly down to the mistake that he had made. And Mangator did pretty much an identical lap time to Tuscan. Here is Mangator now as well, following him through and trying to pick up Yoohan. Here he is coming into turn 4. So he's kind of running a race all by himself. So is the Prophecy as he's coming into turn 3, I believe. And then here is Doegp in 6th position, just coming through turns 1 and 2 now. So apart from first and second, it seems like the field is pretty spread out in this race. We're on lap 11 at the moment. I imagine Khaki and Tuscan will be coming towards the end of this lap and actually going to be starting lap 12 very, very soon. Here is Mangator. Yeah, here comes Tuscan through the final corner now. And Khaki will be about a second up in front of him, maybe slightly less, or maybe slightly more, actually. Looking at the visual gap between these two drivers at the moment, it probably looks about a second and a half to maybe 2 seconds. So a gap has formed between these two drivers at the moment. I imagine Tuscan maybe just thinking about settling down behind Khaki and just trying to bring the car home in second position. He did have a fairly decent go at trying to get first, however it didn't really quite work out for him. He's actually gone and lost out in the process as well, because he did run wide coming through the exit of this next corner that he is just coming into now. And again he's running out wide. They're dipping almost all 4 wheels out onto the gravel, which will cost him a little bit of momentum coming up the hill, which will cost him even more. His top end speed coming up the top into the braking zone for the corkscrew won't be as high as Khaki's would have been, providing that Khaki obviously didn't run wide either. And there you can see Mangator popping up in the background as these guys run through the final stages of this race, coming up into lap 13 now. See what Tuscan does. Actually, that displays his fastest lap that he's done. So at the moment, Tuscan's done the fastest lap of the race with a 26.3. And just coming through the first sequence of turns, taking it very nice and tidy. And yeah, it doesn't look like Tuscan's quite pushing as hard as he was previously to try and close the gap back up. Either that or Khaki's turned the wick up and is pushing that little bit harder. You can see Khaki's fastest lap so far is a 26.1. as he comes through. Now coming up towards this very fast left-handed kink, taking that quite nicely. And again, yeah, he's not running out quite as far wide as Tuscan has been on the previous laps. Khaki just seems to be that little bit more settled and that little bit tidier than Tuscan has been so far in this race. And that is why Khaki is currently holding the lead of the race as we come through the second to last corner, taking a very nice line, not running quite out as far wide as Tuscan does, and keeping the car within the confines of the track, or shall I say closer to the confines of the track than Tuscan was. It's just that little bit neater, a little bit tidier, while still able to keep the speed and the momentum up through the corners and not lose too much time. Just taking it very nice and smooth, not really hustling the car at all. It doesn't look like the car is trying to break away from Khaki. They're just taking these sequence of corners in a nice, smooth, flowing fashion. Just holding the rhythm very, very nicely. Using the curb there to open up the corner. Clipping the apex around that sausage curb, but you want to stay just to the right of that. And then nice and smooth on the power out through the exit. There you can see again, just confirming that he's not running quite as wide as Tuscan was, keeping the two wheels on the curb rather than dipping them onto the gravel. Nice smooth line there through the corkscrew. Very, very interesting corner, that one. It's completely blind as you come into it in the braking zone. The car's a little bit squirmy, and then you chuck it left, all of a sudden the ground just falls away from you and the car just drops, and you've immediately got to flick it to the right. Fortunately, the car compresses down and it gives you a good amount of grip, and it just hooks and pulls you into the corner. You can only imagine the G-forces of actually going through that corner in real life. Obviously the driver doesn't feel those in the racing sim, however he'll feel the effect on the car. You'll feel the car going light over the crest, and all of a sudden steering become heavy as it compresses down again. So good fun. This is a very, very nice circuit. An awful lot of drivers do enjoy racing around this track, and certainly with the sand and the gravel and the very, very dry grass being on and around the outside with virtually no tarmac runoff areas apart from the entry to the first corner, it makes it fairly difficult, and the track will punish the driver if he does run out wide. Makes it very, very difficult to recover from, and it basically is just, yeah, it's an old school style circuit, so drivers tend to enjoy it, and it provides some pretty good racing as well as Khaki comes through into the second to last corner for this first race on this final lap, and now into the final corner itself. So he'll be coming across the start finish line to take the win of this first round of this February final. Comes across the line now, which means that Tuscan should take second position, Mangator should take third position, and then I believe, who was in fourth? Yoohan, sorry, that was it. Yoohan will take fourth position, and then in fifth position I believe will be the Prophecy. Here he comes now through the penultimate corner up towards the braking zone of the final turn now. Coming through that quite nicely, hooking up the apex. Not troubling the curbs or the AstroTurf on the exit of the corner there, as he comes home to take fifth position. And then Diego, now coming into the penultimate corner, will come home in sixth position. And here he comes now up towards the final corner into the apex, and then out through the exit and across the start finish line to conclude this first race. So here are the official results then, with Khaki taking first, Tuscan in second, Mangator finished in third position, then it was Yoohan in fourth, with the Prophecy in 5th position, and then bringing up the rear in 6th position was Diego. So we have one more race in this ESL February PC Go4 Cup final, and we will be racing at Brno. So the main questions are, will Khaki be able to hold on to the lead, and will he be able to again be the champion for this February final, or will Tuscan be able to take the race to Khaki and take that position away and come away with the win in the second round and make it go down to a tie? But yeah, I'm going to wrap it up for this video. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave those down in the comments section below. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you in round 2 of this ESL Go4 Cup PC February final.